Hello, 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 and welcome to Starting the Day the Right Way 5-minute devotion for April 7th, 2021. All right, I am so excited for this episode. I'm going to hop right into it. I'm going to reverse, and then I'm going to tell you what happened today. So today's verse comes from Luke 10:30-37, and it comes from the Message. And it says this: Jesus answered by telling a story. There was once a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. Luckily, a priest was on his way down the same road, but when he saw him, he angled across to the other side. Then a Levite, religious man, showed up. He also avoided the injured man. A Samaritan traveling the road came upon him. When he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfecting and bandaging his wounds. Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, "Take good care of him. If it costs any more, put it on my bill. I'll pay you on the way back." What do you think? Which one of these 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by the robbers? Verse 37 is the most important one. The one who treated him kindly, the religion scholar said. Jesus said, "Go and do the same." All right, let me tell you what happened today. So I'm teaching, I'm on spring break this week. We decided to take my little guy to a place called Brook Green Gardens. Whole bunch of statues and sculptures and beautiful flowers and trees and all sorts of stuff, right? So we're on the way there. It took us about 45 minutes to get there from where we live. And on the way, my wife is just, praying for an encounter to pray over people today, give us an opportunity and whatnot. So we pull up, we park, and we find a bench right away. We find a parking spot right away. God gave us a little favor in that. And so we sit our little guy down because he hadn't had lunch yet. And he starts, having his lunch, and we're there maybe 5 minutes. And all of a sudden we hear, "Do you want us to call 911?" And so we saw a crowd gathering around people. So immediately I pack up my son's lunch. My wife is already heading over there, right? Because she's on a mission. God sent her over there. God said, go lay hands, right? So I want you to understand this. We're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And God says, go. What do? You go. You know that God's going to protect you. When you know that you know that you know, you just listen to that voice of God and you go. And when my wife got over there, this woman had fallen backwards, fell on the back of her head. There was blood coming out of her head. Her eyes were, different directions, rolling in the back of her head. And so God just says, lay hands, start praying. So that's exactly what my wife did. She started praying. And then 3 minutes later, her eyes come back into focus and she's like crystal clear. And she's like, "I feel like I could get up." And, and her family was like, wait. The ambulance is on the way. They didn't want her getting up. And so God tells my wife to continue praying for all the neurological systems in her body. Later, when the ambulance pulls up, the woman tells them that she had a shunt in her brain from encephalitis. My wife had no way of knowing that. But when my wife was praying over her also, the blood, God said that the blood was going to stop, right? And so the paramedics get there and they start looking. They see the dried up blood in the back of her head, but they cannot find the spot where it's leaking from. And God tells my wife, says, "It's not there. Your prayer healed it." And everyone was just kind of like, appreciative, in awe, didn't know what was happening. And it was just so awesome to be a part of this. And I had my son, and we, because my son was like, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy?" And, I was like, "She's on the other side of the car. She's on the ground with the woman." She's like, "How can you tell?" And I'm like, "I know. God told me that mommy was going to go pray with her." And so then I moved him over there because I didn't want him being worried. And then so he was there and looking at what was going on. So this was an incredible scene of what was happening. And my wife just continued praying. And the woman had curled up fingers, and my wife prayed, straighten up, and they immediately straightened up. And it was just a miracle. There was just miracle after miracle after miracle. And the woman did not want to let go of my wife's hand. She's like, what's your name? What's your name? And my wife only gave her first name to the lady. And it was just really, really incredible. So we're still processing through this, but here's what I know. God is still alive. He's still looking to work through people. Now, if my wife did not go over there, there would be no miracle because there was nobody else showing up who was willing to pray for this woman. So we are part of God's miracles. We have a part in it. Okay, think about this. When the disciples were passing out the bread and the fish at the feeding of the 5,000, what happens when they got a quarter a mile away from Jesus, a half a mile away from Jesus, a mile away from Jesus? They didn't run back to get more bread. It was multiplying right in their very hands. We are the hands and feet of God, and he is looking for people who are willing to be bold enough to go into situations and to see the mighty hand of God move in those situations. So guys, I don't know how this came out. It was meant to bring glory to God and just excitement for God and just excitement that he used my wife today. I hope it comes out that way, because if he uses my wife, if he uses me, he can use you. And he's looking for people to use. This is the time that we need to be used. This is the time that we need to be looking for these opportunities to be used and praying ahead of time before we arrive in places. And it was just incredible. So I hope somehow, some way this was a blessing. I hope I didn't ramble on, but dig into these verses. Jesus said in verse 37, go and do the same. All right. God bless. We'll be back.